Welcome. Today we are going to be disassembling an HP Spectre X360. This particular model is the 15-B102DX, and we're going to be disassembling the bottom case assembly, and the display is going to be left complete. So for this you're going to need a T5 Torx. So we'll go ahead and remove the screws along the bottom case. And on this one, they've also hidden a couple screws under the back feet, so you'll need to remove the back feet to get to those screws. Alright, once we have all those screws removed, we'll just go ahead and lift up on the front edge and remove the bottom case. Alright, so we have a good view of the inside of the laptop, and as usual, the first thing we're going to remove is the battery. Alright, once you have the battery screws out, we'll go ahead and remove that connector. Just get some fingernails behind those tabs and just push it straight out. And you can remove the battery. And for the memory sticks, we'll just spread the little retainer bars and remove those memory sticks. Alright, now we can start removing components. The InOut board here looks like we can still remove it. So we'll go ahead and remove the screw and the ribbon. And we can wiggle it out of the ports in the board. Alright, looks like the Wi-Fi card just has a couple of antennas here. We'll just pop those off and remove that screw. So once the screw is out, you can just slide it laterally out. Alright, now for the fan and heatsink assembly. It looks like on the fans there's a few cables that are kind of running through little retainer clips on the fan, so we're going to want to get those out of there so that when we're ready to remove the fan, there's nothing holding it in. So we'll do that for both sides. And this connector for these speakers just slides straight out. And lastly, we'll get the connector for the fans. This type of connector, you just want to lift up from the wire side, and it will pop that connector out, just like that. Alright, so once we have all the wiring out of the way, we can go ahead and remove the screws for the fan and heatsink. Alright, once we have all the screws removed, we'll go ahead and just take our fingernail and kind of wiggle underneath the middle of the heatsink. And that way, if there's any thermal paste adhering the heatsink to the motherboard, we'll just wiggle that free, and then we should be able to remove the fans and heatsink. So sometimes, especially if it's kind of older laptop, this thermal paste can really stick that heatsink on pretty well. So after you get the screws out, just wiggle it with your fingernails and it should work it free. All right, it looks like we are ready to start removing the motherboard from the chassis. So we're gonna go ahead and free all of these ribbons. And with this type of connector, you just kind of flip up on it and then you can pull the ribbon out. And it's a good idea to flip that little gate back down so it doesn't get broken. And the pram battery is going to stay connected to the motherboard, so we're going to unstick it from the case and just make sure that it is worked free, but we'll just leave it attached to the motherboard. Alright, looks like last is the display cable. Alright, so we will go ahead and finish removing these screws from the motherboard and should be able to remove it. Alright, so we've got the screws out, so we should be able to gently just wiggle that motherboard a little bit to free it from the case. Alright, so what we got left is the keyboard and touchpad. We're going to leave these with the assembly intact, but it's just a few screws to remove that touchpad assembly, and the keyboard looks like a good number of screws to remove. Lots of very small Phillips, so if you need to remove the keyboard, just have a very small Phillips head screwdriver. Speakers, just a couple of screws. Card reader is just a screw. So now we can go ahead and remove the display assembly. So you want to open it up all the way, facing downwards, so you can get to those hinge screws, and we'll go ahead and remove the screws for the hinges. Alright, now we can go ahead and separate the display assembly from the palm rest. Could take a little bit of finagling. I believe on this one you can just kind of tilt that display assembly further back as if you were putting it into tablet mode, and just work it out of the hinges there. So you'll be able to see once you start wiggling how you need to position it to actually remove it around these curved parts. So that's it for the palm rest, and it's actually pretty easy to disassemble this laptop. As long as you have that T5 Torx and a small Phillips head bit, you should be able to be able to get in there and take apart just about everything. Alright, so as stated, this case we're going to leave the display assembly complete. These can be kind of tricky to take apart without breaking the thin plexiglass here on the front. But if you want to chance it, the front plexiglass bezel will kind of pop out of the back cover, and then a lot of times they're held on by some pretty strong adhesive. So it's definitely good to have a heat gun if you're going to try to take apart one of these types of displays. So that's it. That's how you take apart most of an HP Spectre X360, and this one was the 15-B102DX. So if this video helped you or you found it informative, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.